All right, here's level 3. And level 3 is harder, and I'm going to explain why. In level 1, we had positive, positive, right? The product was positive. So and the sum was positive, so we knew it was just going to be a positive times positive. Okay. In level 2, the product was still positive. So we still knew it had to be two of the same sign, right? It was either going to be a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative. And in this case, because we noticed the sum was negative, we said, oh, this has to be a negative times a negative. Okay. So now here's where level 3 gets a little harder. Now the sum is negative. The product is negative. Because what I need, right, always, 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 is I need two numbers that multiply to this number and add to this number. So in this case, I need two numbers that multiply to negative 15 and add to positive 2. Okay, so here the big difference is that the product is now negative, which means it's not a positive times positive or a negative times a negative. It's got to be, in order to get a negative number, we have to multiply a positive times a negative, or the other order, negative times positive, doesn't matter. Okay, but now I need to have one number from each sign, one positive number and one negative number, to somehow get to negative 15. Okay, now let's just forget that for a moment. What are the factors of 15? Well, in order to get 15, I can do 15 times 1, or I can do 5 times 3, right? But the problem is, what I need to think about is, okay, well, if I have negative 15, well, that can be negative 15 times positive 1, or it can be positive 15 times negative 1, right? So that's kind of actually two options. Whereas here, right, this could be positive 5 times negative 3, or it could be negative 5 times positive 3. So each of these one options kind of become two options, so it makes it trickier. But again, I still need, right, the rule is actually just the same. The signs do make it more complicated, but I still need two numbers that multiply to negative 15 and add to 2. So I'm still looking at these possibilities and saying, which of these pairs adds to 2? Well, okay, this is, if I were to add these, this would be negative 14, right? This is negative 15 plus 1. 15 minus 1, that's positive 14. 5 plus negative 3, that's 2. And negative 5 plus 3, that's negative 2. And you might notice, right, like, if I change the signs, the result is that the sum changes signs. So here, I actually need the two numbers that are going to result in a sum of 2, right? Because that's my sum. So here's my answer. X minus 5 and, that's a positive 5. X plus 5, X minus 3. Okay, now that is the answer. That's the correct answer. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and check it so you can kind of just see like why that works out. Okay, so I'm multiplying, right? So x times x, x squared. X times negative 3, negative 3x. Now, so I distributed the x, now I'm distributing the 5. 5 times x, 5x. 5 times negative 3, negative 15. Okay, so at this point now I do have like terms. These are like terms, so I can combine those. This is negative 3 plus 5, so that's 3 negatives, 5 positives, right? 3 negatives, 5 positives. And I have a negative and a positive, it can cancel, so I can cancel out 3 of each. And I get back what I started with, okay? Okay, let's look. I'm going to do 4 examples this time just so you can see it. You're going to notice the second example is very similar to the first. What's the difference? I still have a negative 15. Right? So these are all my possibilities still. But now here I have a negative 2. Okay, so what's going to change? Well, here I had 5 minus 3, that was positive 2. But what I need is for it to be negative 2. So the change is the sign switch, right? Now, negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. So say you get an answer and then you go to check it and you realize like this sign came out wrong. Then you know, like, oh, if I just switch the signs, right, this sign changes, right? This and this, the only difference is the sign of the 2. Let's do another couple. I'm going to talk through a couple more just so you can kind of hear me think through it, and then you'll have a chance to try it. Okay, this one's tricky. Why is this tricky? Because 24 has a lot of factors. So it's not just so simple as, okay, well, here it's either 15 times 1 or 5 times 3. 24 has some options here, right? 24 could be 24 times 1. Could be 12 times 2, could be 8 times 3 could be 6 times 4. Lots of options. Okay. Now, remember what you're looking for. Notice here, the sum was a 2 or a negative 2. Notice 5 and 3, they have a difference of 2, right? 5 minus 3 is 2. Because ultimately I ended up subtracting them, right? I had 5 minus 3 or 3 minus 5, but ultimately I'm going to end up subtracting because I have one positive and one negative. So here, as I come up with factors of 24, what I'm looking for is a pair of factors that has a difference of 5, that if I subtract them, I get 5. So, no, that's 23. These have a difference of 10. Here we go. 8 minus 3 is 5. 6 minus 4 is 2, right? So that's not it. So I'm going to use 8 and 3. So, and then let's come back to the signs in a second. I know, and I'm just going to erase this so it's out of my way. So I know I'm going to use 8 and 3. Now, 8 times 3 is 24. I need one of them to be negative in order for them to multiply to be negative 24. Which one should be negative? Well, I need them to add to negative 5. So let's see. 8 plus negative 3, right, which is 8 minus 3, that's positive 5. Negative 8 plus 3, negative 8 plus positive 3, that's negative 5. So I need the 8 to be negative. And notice, if this number is negative, right, if the sum is negative, then I need my larger number to be negative, right? Because otherwise, I have 8 negatives and 3 positives, so I have more negatives, negative 5. If I had positive 8 and negative 3, then I would have more positives, and I'd have positive 5. Okay, here's my answer here. You're welcome to go through and check it. I'm not going to. And here's one last example before you give this a shot. Okay, so I need two numbers. Okay, remember I'm always looking for two numbers that multiply to this and add to this. Multiply to this, add to this. So numbers that multiply to 80 and add to 2. Now, here's the thing. It's negative 80, right? So I can start thinking of numbers. I can say, okay, well, 1 times 80, 2 times 40, 4 times 20, 5 times 16, 8 times 10. That's all of them. Okay. Now, you might not need to go through and list all of them, but I'm just kind of showing you my full thought process. Now, remember, this is negative. So one of these, when I multiply, one of them has to be a negative number, which means that when I go to combine them, when I find the sum, I'm going to actually end up subtracting. So I'm looking for a pair of numbers that has a difference of 2, that if I subtract them, I get 2. Well, here, no, right? 80 minus 1 is 79, 40 minus 2 is 38, 20 minus 4 is 16, 60 minus 5 is 11. Here we go. 8 minus 10 is 2. So I'm working with a 10 and an 8. Now, which one has to be negative? Let's see. I want the sum to be positive 2. So if I want the sum to be positive 2, then the larger number has to be positive, right? Because then this will be 10 minus 8, and that'll be a sum of 2. 10 times negative 8 is negative 80. 10 plus negative 8 is positive 2.